Hi, this is Joe Biter. I'm Caleb Wolfgang Biter's dad, and I'm glad to be part of this just conversation.
All right. Okay. My first question. Was I actually named after your cat growing up?
Yes, my dad, the history is my dad wanted me to name me Wolfgang as my first name, and my mom did not like that. So we had a cat. It was a black cat, little white patch underneath him, and my dad ended up naming the cat Wolfgang. It wasn't our first cat, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
It was our second cat, but yes, named the cat Wolfgang. And I've always liked Wolfgang because of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. I did play the piano when I was a youth. So, anyways, I always thought it was cool. And the older I get, I was disappointed I wasn't named that. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's the history.
My second question is, what's the deal with pickles?
I love pickles. I love the way they taste. I am a salt guy, which probably not a good thing because high blood pressure runs in the family. But
Mm-hmm.
I like pickles to the point I'll drink the juice. I like the way they taste. I crave them. I like every pickle except for sweet pickles. I don't like sweet pickles. Don't know why, but I don't like them. Or bread and butter. I don't like bread and butter either.
Okay.
But kosher dill, regular dill, garlic, you name it, I'll drink it. And before I go off the pickles, I do want to remind you that the professional football players specifically drink pickle juice for cramps. It's actually marketed now, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm not
So you were
alone.
ahead of
They
the
might not like
curve.
that. I maybe I should have came up with that a long time ago. I could have been a rich
Uh-huh.
man, right?
Uh-huh.
No, missed my chance, but I love pickles. Yes.
Mm-hmm. What was growing up like?
Grandpa, well, I guess I'll speak to father, mother for me, I guess. You know what I'm referring to. My dad worked the post office, worked the night shift. What I mean night shift is tour one, which is midnights. And my mom was a school nurse. So to be honest, I didn't see them a lot growing up. I did, but I didn't. I was raised pretty much by grandparents down the road, and that's no disrespect to my parents, but they didn't have they didn't send me to daycare, me and my sister, and they need someone to watch over us because they work opposite shifts. My dad had to sleep, so spent quite a deal of time with my grandparents all the way through well going into high school, really. Yeah.
Okay. In high
So
school, you worked at a Little Caesars,
yes,
and you told me a story of once you were robbed in a Little Caesars.
yes,
So
yes.
my
I was
question is, when the
sure.
gunman came in, did he refer to his weapon as hot and ready?
No, that's funny. No, it's not funny, but he did.
Did that experience have any lasting impact, or was that just something that happened and moved on from?
Something happened I moved on from. Curiously enough, I was afraid of the dark, but I wasn't afraid of getting shot at.
Okay, okay.
Uh, yeah, I was in the back of the store when he came in. He had a mask on, ski mask, and give me your blanket money. I had my assistant manager up front who was different. Assistant manager started arguing with him because that's what you do when someone has a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the back of the store by the dish rack, and if you duck behind the wall, you could go out the back door. I think maybe he thought because I just motioned that way, I didn't move. He shot and hit the emergency light above my head.
Okay.
And then we paid all this money for silent alarm for the Little Caesars. So as he's getting away, I'm pushing the button. It doesn't work. I had to call 911.
Mm-hmm.
And kid you not, I saw a little kid's dirt bike, just a glimpse of him getting away on it. So to this day, never know what happened. So I worked, finished, closed up the store with my assistant manager, like no big deal,
Mm-hmm.
and left for the day. The only one that had a problem was my mom, I guess rightfully so, looking after her kid, freaked out and wanted them to get me counseling and why weren't you shaken up? And
Mm-hmm.
um, I wasn't. So here's the kicker, because I was, I think, senior in high school when this happened, or just graduating. I went and played cards with some high school friends that night after getting robbed. I got pulled over for allegedly speeding. The same person pulling me over was the same police officer responded to the scene at Little Caesars. So he let me go. True story. And there you have it.
Uh-huh.
But no, to answer your question, it was just, just another day. And Like I said, afraid of the
Hmm.
dark, but shoot a gun at me, I'm okay.
Can you talk about your experience of going to college to get a specific job and then realizing I don't actually want to do that job?
Yeah. I wanted to go into history and I want to be Indiana Jones.
Hmm.
Um, but whatever it was, I never followed that. So I kind of went the path of, oh, well, this is what you should be doing, which is a high school teacher. Um, so that's what I went for. I spent 2 years at Aquinas, transferred to Western, graduated. Well, almost graduated. So I was going through secondary teaching curriculum. All I had to do was finish working as a school as a student aide. Oh, the term, boy, I'm drawing a blank. That's all I had internship. That's all I had to do to finish up and get my degree. Well, then the
Hmm.
post office came calling, and I thought I'd work for the post office for a year and quit. Well, now it's 27 years later. So 4 years later, all I had to do was take a basic computer course in social science to get my bachelor's in social science. That's what I got. But to answer your question, I knew I shouldn't have been a teacher, and it would have been a horrible mistake then to be a teacher because I wasn't cut out to be a teacher. Ironically enough, now if I could teach, I'd be a lot better than I would have back then. But that's because of current working career.
Hmm.
Uh, and I knew all along I shouldn't have, but I went with the flow. Just one of those things kind of regretted. I should have known.
I think something that a lot of people don't know is what their dad actually does for work. I have
Hmm.
an idea of what you do, but I don't really know what you do. So can you enlighten me on what you actually do?
No, unless you got security clearance.
Okay. Okay.
All right. I was supervisor. You want to hear about a quick enumeration of my career going up to now,
Sure.
like in 2 minutes or less? Okay.
Hmm.
I was hired as a clerk. I used to run mail processing machines, and about a year in, I got into management and pretty much stayed there. Manager of mail processing operations for the plants. So you supervise people running machines or offloading mail on the dock. We did a variety of things. Got hired in 97, so about 10 years I was supervising operations in a plant, and then decided to get into maintenance, supervisor maintenance operations. It was a lateral assignment, but what I did then was watch the mechanics and custodians do their scheduling, make sure the machines were being maintained, respond to calls, if equipment was down. Um, and probably about 10 years ago, I got to senior management. I became the manager of the stockroom, and then I became the MOS and the manager over the whole facility on the building downtown Grand Rapids. And then I became the lead maintenance manager, which meant I had Grand Rapids, Lansing, Traverse City, UP, Kingsford. I was responsible for all those. And about 6 years ago now, I got a job interview in Tampa. Didn't think I'd get the job. It was a free trip because they always have someone in mind. And interviewed, and lo and behold, 2 days later, they offered me the job. I was stunned, didn't expect it, and I meekly got the words out, okay. Um, so I took the job. Um, Family still went and moved down, but I went back to Michigan because I knew they didn't want to live in Tampa. 3 years ago, and I became a senior MDO, it's called. It's a manager of operations, worked 12 hours, 7 days a week. Hated it. I was able to come back. So now my current job is um, East, it's going to be a fancy title, Eastern Region Maintenance Implementation Specialist, clear as mud. Um, got the whole Eastern region of the United States, which Michigan, ironically enough, is considered Western. That's like where the cutoff is, go figure. About 170 mail processing sites, and there's no script. It's putting out fires all day. It could be labor issues, machine issues, training, working with labor, working with HR, making sure the routes are done timely. It's a whole host of stuff. And I like the job I'm currently in. There's some travel, but not a lot. But it's like a dumpster fire every morning, and there's no script, and it's kind of cool because you're walking in every day and you have no idea what the day is going to have for you. Um, there are some telecons. There's three that we do weekly, but outside of that, it's free game. Every time you walk in, you just don't know. So it's exciting. I like
Mhm.
it. Makes
Mhm.
turns the brain on, and I'm not working the crazy hours as you were painfully aware years ago. It I stopped being a workaholic, which was a blessing in itself. So
Mhm.
yeah,
What do you think were some consequences of being successful?
sacrifice, sacrifice family, sacrifice yourself. Yeah, put the work before uh, everything else. It's probably honestly biggest regret because I did a lot of that. There's a price to pay to climb the ladder. Um, and unfortunately, it's rampant in the post office. So there's a lot of people. I was asked if I want to be an executive. I guess that'd be the next natural jump. And my quick answer is no, no, no. Yeah, life's too short. So I've seen people's health, families, everything get destroyed. I had enough doing that myself. So um, fortunate, yeah, 50 years old, but finally woke up and said, no more.
What lesson do you think took you the longest to learn?
I think being true to myself instead of doing what you thought was expected or not show emotion, just be the company person, do what everyone thought you should be. And that was the hardest part. I don't think I realized that till 3 years ago, what kind of hole I was in, and didn't even see the light coming out. And I guess if you're going to ask how to come out of it, is the job, of course, but um, it's a combination of things. I was in bad health, staying active. As you know, the ocean is close here. Every weekend, which I still do, is when I'm in town, is walk the beach and my earbuds in and just walk and think. So combination of things that come out of it, but yeah, I'm out of it. So
Do you have an answer for what you were using work as a tool to avoid things? Do you know what you were trying to avoid?
sure. I think I was trying to avoid and no one's fault, but I think I always felt like I had to be perfect. And inside I was not perfect and never followed up on what I wanted to do, which I don't mean that to sound selfish, but there's a balancing act, right? So what ends up happening is you do that long enough to yourself and you don't follow what you should be doing. You ultimately end up hurting yourself and others by not following the path known you should have been on. If I would made the tough decision years ago, this is who I am, this is the path I want to be on because it's healthy and it's good for the soul, things would have been a lot better. However, I sometimes see people chase that their whole life, and I'm not saying I'm still not chasing things, but I could honestly say finally feel grounded and good with how things are now. Yeah.
Who did you look up to growing up?
Um, I mean, I love my parents, but spent a lot of time with the grandparents. My grandma and grandpa, which is odd, because I know my grandfather wasn't the best dad for my dad, but the version I got from him was the opposite, I think, than what my dad had, you know, and maybe because I was a grandchild. So I really being around their company. As far as looking up to outside of family, I was a big Dale Murphy fan
Who's
for the
that?
Atlanta Braves.
Okay.
Atlanta Braves outfielder. Yep, yep. Back-to-back MVP, 1981 and 82. Um, but the weird thing that I guess, as far as looking up, uh, I don't think there was like one strong figure. I kind of, I guess, figure out things on my own in a way, and that's no one's fault. It's just the way it happened.
Hmm. Can you point to any event or thing that happened in your life that you feel like had a substantial impact on who you are as a person?
You know, I 'cause it does sound selfish. I've got a family and people I love, but we're talking about
Mhm,
inside.
mhm,
I think it's turning point for me was I didn't trust myself to know what I was capable of or what I could handle as far as challenges go. Um, Probably is when I first came to Tampa 6 years ago. Didn't know anybody. I didn't have an apartment. I had a mattress bungee cord of clothes, and that was it. Didn't have an apartment, and it was sink or swim. You know, you're either gonna go back the tail between your legs, or you're going to move on. Um, I I think personally, as far as if you talk about self development, that was an eye opener. I think
mhm, mhm.
overcoming that, and then Hurricane Irma came 3 weeks after I started in Tampa, so it was kind of a weird twist of times. As far as family, I wish I was more emotionally available years ago. Um, I wasn't an outwardly angry person, but I would say probably passive aggressive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's
Um,
a story I remember. Um,
mhm,
I don't know if it's anything, but I remember it. You'd pick me up. We were heading back to the house. It was the old house in Pearson,
mhm.
and it was at the corner gas station right before the highway. And you pulled in and you said, "I don't know. I'm just feeling lucky today." And you went in and you bought a lottery ticket and you won like $500. And you got back in the car and you're like, "Huh, I was right." And then we just went back to the house.
Yeah. Well, you probably know this. I get emotional about the little things, but the big things, like in the middle of something like that or chaos, I'm the most comfortable, and it's kind of reverse what it should be.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and this sounds hokey, but I am a very intuitive person. Now, if I was that intuitive, I'd be a millionaire, right? I'd be a
Uh-huh.
billionaire.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes you feel it, and sometimes you don't.
What is something that you learned from me?
Well, there's a list of things. A lot of things I see in you. I wish I had the courage or the strength years ago. Um, I think you're following what your heart and soul is telling you. Um, you have a job that's very rewarding. Um, I'm not saying my job hasn't been rewarding through the years, but a lot of times I know there's no purpose to it. Where I think every day for your job, there seems to be a purpose. And um, your introduction conversation with yourself that you shared with me, your first one, that really got to me because that's your heart speaking. And I think I've shared this with you before. I didn't grow up in a childhood where it was told not to show emotion, but at the same time, I think my mom and dad's generation, certainly theirs before, you just weren't too outgoing emotionally. Uh, Not that it was frowned upon, not like you get belittled. Well, you're a man, you can't do that, but that's what it feels like sometimes. And to me, who you are is a lot. It's strength.
Mhm.
Um, Earlier, people say weakness. Oh, you got to talk to somebody, this and that. It's backwards. It's strength to know I need help, and I've been to counseling several times myself too, differing results. But you're not afraid to talk to people. You're not afraid to own up things about who you are instead of just poo pooing it or put on this act of something you're not.
Mhm.
So I've learned a lot of lessons. What I see in you is, in many ways, who I saw in myself, but I didn't express it outwards like you have. I think that's the big difference. I just maybe never had a safe place to do that. I don't know, but
Mhm.
I give you kudos for that. for you and you're actually doing something that helps the community, which
Hmm.
is pretty awesome too. Yeah.
I feel like growing up, being around you, I learned a lot. Not so it I mean this in the most sincere way and positive way, but I feel like I learned some consequences and limitations of the way that you were living life.
Yeah.
And I learned, okay, if I do it this way, there's this result, but then there's also this consequence. And because I was looking at you objectively and not, I wasn't in it, I got to see both sides of it and decide which ones were worth making part of me and which ones were okay leaving to you.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. That's a mixed bag, right?
Mhm.
Some things are good and other things probably, what the hell's he doing? Or my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
What are you most thankful for?
I guess really family. Find that out older I get. Um, because when things get peeled away, the job really doesn't mean anything. If I walked out tomorrow for my job, yeah, I'd probably be missed for a couple weeks and then maybe get a couple phone calls here and there. But over time that goes away. And it's a really lonely feeling if the only thing you have to focus on is work. And you talk about learning from others. I've seen others, that's all they have. They lose everything, but my God, they have work. And there's some executives I know. So I certainly don't want that. So family and health. Um, I forgot how important it was to maintain a good mental and physical aspect. I don't think you could be mentally strong or physically strong without the other part coming along with for the ride. You got to have both, and you got to find what takes you there.
I found that for me, it was I just forgot what it felt like to feel healthy. And
Yeah,
once you remember what that feeling like, it's so obvious now, like looking back, like, oh, why would I ever not want to feel like this? But when you're in it, you just like you're so far from remembering what that feeling is like that it's easy not to like do the things that actually are going to make you feel better and just continue the way you are. But if you can just have a reminder of like, oh, I can do things and I don't feel awful just being, it's one of the best feelings. What is something you haven't done but still hope to do?
travel,
Where to?
Greece.
Why Greece?
My sister went there. Not just because my sister went there. It's not a competition, but it's my boss has been there too and shown me pictures, and I've heard in Anthony Bourdain, the travel guru. I know him going to Greece and I remember watching on TV just how beautiful it is. Absolutely beautiful. Just to overlook the sea, big shipping yards coming in, and the seafood, of course. A lot of history there, right? I mean, that's kind of argumentally the birth of modernized civilization in Greece.
It's that history buff coming out right now.
Yeah, it's history buff. That's
Hmm.
right. Yeah. So definitely travel. Travel would be what I want to do.
What would you tell your younger self?
I guess my younger self, I felt like I had a very bright flame inside. I knew who I was and I knew where I wanted to be, but it's, it's like a tug of war, what you want to be and what you're told you should be. And that's my decision. Nobody's fault to tell me you can't be one, you have to do this. But if I could tell my younger self is to hold true back then on the path, you should have took,
Hmm.
um, instead of taking the path that was expected.
What is your definition of success and how has it changed?
Success. Money's always been part of it. Not that I want to make a lot of money, but I used to, if the pay increases, I'll think, okay, well, this is what it's supposed to be. Here, you start your career here, and you're gonna end up here, and you're gonna have this title and this money. Um, I wasn't obsessed with the money. I wasn't, but at the same time, it was like a measuring stick a little bit. So success now has nothing to do with money. Um, you've been to my 450 square foot apartment. Um, I have a paid for car, but it's old. I really could care less about the money. It's true happiness inside. If you're feeling your essential needs for your family and you're feeling good mentally, I think the mental part has to be the number one part. It has to, because if you're not healthy mentally, nothing else is going to matter at that point. It's going to fall apart.
All right, thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
No, hope I didn't babble too much. I thank you, Caleb. You look very at ease doing this. This very good.
I'm glad I'm
Um,
not showing what's going on inside because this is so nerve-wracking. Hello, back again with the ad read. No, I have not memorized the script yet, but I promise I will keep working at it and hopefully soon I won't need this, but until that day, here's the paper. Today's episode is in partnership with Daily Jam. Daily Jam is my personal music playlist project. Currently, we are on year 6 of doing this, Daily Jam 6. The way it works is I add one new song every single day, 365 days a year, 366 on leap years with no repeats. The standard for the songs is in the name. Every song, I believe, is good enough to be played on repeat all day long. My personal daily jam. Humbly and respectfully, I have incredible music taste. So check the link in the description or go to my Spotify profile, Caleb Wolfgang, to listen to any Daily Jam playlist. I guarantee that you will find songs you love and gems you've never heard before. Thank you to Daily Jam for being a sponsor of today's episode.